It's a miracle. Somehow Moana Pasifika have rolled the Crusaders at home in Christchurch, a result nobody saw coming. Not even me. I absolutely tipped the Crusaders to win in the Garden City. Thought it might be a tight one. Thought it might be a bit of a tussle. Didn't expect them to get blown off the paddock by Ardie Savea's men. And I had to jump on here with you guys. I had to do an extra video and chop this one up. This could not wait for my Round 7 Super Rugby recap. Let's talk about this. What does it mean for the Crusaders? They have seemingly reverted back to the bad old days of 2024. This absolutely looked like a performance straight from last season. Rob Penney's disastrous debut as head coach, taking over from the 7-time champion coach, Razor. Man, Tana Umaga was the one with a wee smile on his face at the end of the game. It was awesome seeing Umaga up there, knowing that he had really wrung all the value out of his men with his coaching. His support team were whooping, giving handshakes. What they have done is they've built a loose forward trio. Paia, Failangi, Savea. When they're on song, they are as good as any loosies in this competition. They were all over the breakdown. I lost count of how many turnovers there were. Fantastic. And really, I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me that Moana Pasifika would be turning over some pill, would be hitting the breakdowns pretty hard. I would have said, yeah, I believe that. If you told me Pellegrini, the number 10, was going to have a great game, that his tactical kicking would be astute, that he would keep his men down the right end of the field, I would have believed that too. What I probably wouldn't have believed is if you told me that the scrum and the line-out are going to look great, because I would have picked the Crusaders to really put them away in the set piece. And I was wrong. Was this just a terrible night at the office for the Crusaders in the set piece, in the pack battle? Or is Moana Pasifika the real deal? Yeah, they've got Ardie Savea, an international World Rugby Player of the Year, but otherwise, they're not exactly star-studded in their forward pack. Well, their forward pack absolutely fronted today. Didn't just front, won the battle, won the collisions, more than held their own in the set piece. And that was where this victory was built. It was that the scrum held up when a lot of people thought it'd be going backwards. Now, in the second half, when you roll on to Mighty Williams and Cody Taylor, suddenly the men in red and black start looking like themselves. They get down the right end of the field. There are some pick-and-go tries. Right? So certainly the All Blacks cavalry did arrive and stem the tide a little bit, but the damage was being done. Moana Pasifika was just controlling the breakdown beautifully. And again, it wasn't just Ardie Savea. Miracle Failangi has been a miracle this season. He has been one of the finds of the season in the general populace. He's been doing it for years, but I think in the general rugby watching public, now everyone knows his name. They know his name overseas. It's not just people watching it closely in New Zealand or in the Pacific Islands. He's becoming a household name with form like this. So they got a roll on at the breakdown, and that just allowed Patrick Pellegrini, the number 10 for Moana Pasifika, to pull the strings. He is the best kicking 5'8" in this competition. He was very accurate, 50-22s at the right time, pinpoint kicks, short kicking game, long kicking game, accurate goal kicking. Possibly overplayed the hand. I think if you look at Tana Umaga, his interview at halftime, it was quite telling. He just made a wee comment that I noted. He said, we need to be careful with our kick selection. So he's admitting, hey, this is a big weapon for us. Pellegrini's got the ball on a string. He's got that educated boot, but let's not overplay it. One instance comes to mind where Moana Pasifika had an attacking scrum right in the Crusaders 22. This was in the first half. And kicked the ball away. And you just sort of thought that probably wasn't the option there. If I'm going to nitpick, they certainly had numbers to just go through the hands, maybe try a backline move. It almost felt a little bit like the Crusaders knew a kick was coming. And yeah, I just think generally when you're scrumming down the right end of the field, the kick through is a low percentage play. But I'm nitpicking because Pellegrini's kicking is extraordinary. He's just putting on masterclass after masterclass of how much damage you can do with the boot if you kick well. Then they got firepower out wide. So they were just all over the Crusaders. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about a couple of bright spots. Noah Hotham was terrific. I can absolutely see why he cracked the All Blacks last year, and I can see how he's going to rack up more caps for New Zealand. His sniping was excellent. He was someone who could always get the Crusaders going forward, even when seemingly nothing was on. I also want to point out the captain, Ethan Blackadder, back from injury. We know he's made of glass. I think he's a fine player, as you know if you watch this channel. He played well. For me, he played well. He's a guy who can be a little bit invisible occasionally if you're not looking at the right things. A little bit like Sam Cane. Remember people called him Captain Invisible, some of these cruel names. Well, what did they mean when they said that? I think what they're talking about is he's not as flashy. He's not bumping off people like Ardie Savea, okay? He's not just this explosive power athlete. But if you look around the field, you'll see that the guy who's diving on a loose ball is Blackadder. If the line breaks and the opposition is cutting in and making some meters, who's the guy doing a cleanup tackle? It's Blackadder. So Blackadder is kind of the glue that holds the loosies together and lets others shine. So I could certainly see him in black. I could see him supporting the guy who was his opposition today, Ardie Savea. I could see them playing together if Blackadder can remain fit. But I thought he had a good return to form, and he does those small things that go unnoticed that usually win you games. It didn't win them the game today. For me, it was the midfield. And we have to talk about the fact that David Havili, who's been the captain and a very good captain for the Crusaders this year, he was pulled. So if I'm going to single out the midfield as this was a problem area for the Crusaders, have to be fair and say that that's a big deal when you lose your captain. When you lose the linchpin of the back line, that's hard. So what happened was Dallas McLeod, who's been playing at 13, he moved into 12. Levi Omua came in at 13. And they both had nice touches. They both made some good tackles. But in general, the Crusaders were not getting burned out wide. Moana Pasifika was eating them up straight through the middle of the field. Look at the highlights. Straight up the guts was where they did the damage. I haven't seen the Crusaders this porous in the middle of the field, well, I guess since last year. But I thought they'd turned the corner this year. It was definitely back to the bad old days of 2024. I'm telling you, man, this was a rotten performance from the Crusaders. Absolutely rotten. And it was straight up the guts where they lost this game. And that's something you, historically, I mean, last year was a bad year, but historically, you just don't see that from the Crusaders. They're so willing. They're so good at just shutting down the opposition, relentlessly making tackles in midfield. Not so this time. Kind of shocked, to be honest. Didn't expect that. And this bad day flowed through even to their superstar fullback, Will Jordan, who was extremely quiet. He was shut down. Again, I wouldn't say he played poorly. I would just say there were no real opportunities for him to get involved because Moana Pasifika didn't let the Crusaders play. Want to talk about James O'Connor at 10. It's tough when you're playing behind a beaten pack, but I didn't see enough today to think, yep, let's get this veteran in there at 10. I think they should persevere with Taha Kimura. I think he's an exciting player. I think he may be a little more mobile than O'Connor, who certainly still looks full of zip, even into his mid-30s. But I just think you have a good 1-2 punch there. Have the young fella running the show for an hour. You bring O'Connor on. He has a cool, calm head. He takes good options. Have him close it out, finish the game. I'm not convinced starting him is the way to go. And I'm not heaping all of the blame for this on James O'Connor, but clearly a player who didn't fire today. Yep, it was pretty few and far between in terms of guys in red and black who covered themselves in glory. I will say, again, Cullen Grace is a pretty strong player. He might not explode back into the All Blacks mix because there are more eye-catching loose forwards, but I look at, again, some of that work around the field in the line-out, how he performs when there's a rolling maul, how he holds it together. He's another one of those kind of glue players. So I do have a lot of time for Cullen Grace. I think he is a very, very good loose forward. But man, I think next time the Crusaders play, Tamaiti Williams might have to start. Certainly Cody Taylor might have to start, even though Moananu, the wee hooker, covered well. for Cody Taylor, who was out last week and came back off the bench today. But I think it's like all hands on deck. Get the superstar All Blacks starting. And just to finish on this, like what I loved about this game is that if you watched my preview, I was frothing over the Crusaders team. I was salivating. I was like, this is a damn good team. I was almost like, how can these guys lose? I mean, they're All Blacks everywhere. But that's rugby. They got out-passioned. They got out-muscled. They went down. They really could have lost by more. That scoreline probably was a little bit flattering because the Crusaders scored a couple tries there just to lessen the damage on the scoreboard, make it look a bit more presentable. But this was a thumping, resounding win. Certainly the best win ever for Moana Pasifika. Just absolutely stoked for Tana Umaga and his men. Huge congratulations to them. And very excited to see if they can kick on, if they can keep winning. All right, guys, I'll touch on the game again, see if I have any more reflections after sleeping on it, but I will be doing a full breakdown of round 7 very soon. Look out for that, but please subscribe. Love you guys. Be back for another one real soon. Take it easy. Bye for now.